So we have GPT-4o. The O stands for Omni, and it's pretty cool what they've done here. So they made a bunch of announcements. One was that a lot of the access or a lot of the features of GPT-4 Plus are now available in the free tier, like image generation and uh, transcribing audio and some of the multimodal stuff. And so basically the difference between the GPT-4 free tier and premium tier isn't only going to be the amount of band or the amount of like credits you get, or like how much questions you can ask it. So bandwidth limitation rather than like functionality limitation, which I think is really cool. Um, but more interestingly, the GPT-4o model, they've basically created the like most uh, realistic conversational AI, where you can just turn it into conversation mode and talk to it, and it can respond, and you can interrupt it whenever, and it's not like a back and forth per se. And it understands what you're saying in real time, and it's pretty impressive. But I'll just show you, it's better.
Hi, I'm Barrett.
Hey, I'm Mark. So one of the key capabilities we're really excited to share with you today is real-time conversational speech. Let's just get a demo fired up. So I'm taking out a phone. If you are wondering about this wire, it's so we have consistent internet. And if you see, there's this little icon on the bottom right of the ChatGPT app, and this will open up GPT-4o's audio capabilities. Hey, ChatGPT, I'm Mark. How are you?
Oh, Mark. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Hey, so I'm on stage right now. I'm doing a live demo, and frankly, I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Can you help me calm my nerves a little bit?
Oh, you're doing a live demo right now? That's awesome. Just take a deep breath. And remember, you're the expert here.
I like that suggestion. Let me try a couple deep breaths. Can you give me feedback on my breaths? Okay, here I go.
Whoa, slow down a bit there. Mark, you're not a vacuum cleaner. Breathe in for a count of 4.
Okay, let me try again. So I'm gonna breathe in deeply
And
Let's
exhale.
skip forward a
and
bit.
breathe out. Use our voice. You don't have to wait for it to finish your turn before you can start speaking, and you can just butt in whenever you want. Second, the model is real-time responsiveness. So that means that you don't have this awkward 2 to 3 second lag before you wait for the model to give a response. And finally, the model picks up on emotion, right? When I was breathing super hard there, it could tell, and it knew, hey, it really has that capability to generate voice in a variety of modes.
Awesome.
Yeah. GPT, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Pretty good.
What's up?
So my friend Barrett here, he's been having trouble sleeping lately. And I want you to tell him a bedtime story about robots and love.
Oh, a bedtime story about robots and love? I got you. World not too different from ours. There was a robot named Byte. Byte was a curious robot, always exploring.
Started this story, but I want a little bit more emotion in your voice, a little bit more drama.
Got it. Let's add some drama. Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours, there was a robot named
No,
Byte.
no, ChatGPT. I really want maximal emotion, like maximal expressiveness, much more than you were doing before.
Understood. Let's amplify the drama.
Understood.
Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours, there was a robot named Byte. Byte
Actually, can
was
you do this in a robotic voice now?
initiating dramatic robotic voice. Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours, there was a robot named Byte. Byte was a curious robot, always exploring new
So I'm
circuits.
seeing Barrett here calm down a little bit. Can you end the story, but do it in a singing voice?
And so Byte found another robot friend, and they lived circuitly ever after.
Thank you so much.
I definitely feel a lot more relaxed.
So like that's the pretty crazy part is the you know this is where the whole her tweet comes from, that we'll get into, is like this is now someone that you could have a conversation with and then start to humanize and like fall in love with in some extreme situations. But and apparently it's also, I don't know if the voice thing is available in all the languages, but the GPT-4o, at least the text model, is available in 50 languages. So that's pretty cool too. But there's more too, because it can real time process video feeds. So it's like you're on a video call with Chat GPT, and it can like keep track of what you've showed it throughout the video call. So before it was just like sending images one at a time. But now it can kind of, you can screen share, and they can like watch your screen and like code alongside you, and you can talk to it while you're like going through code and sharing things on the screen. And that's a part of the desktop app now, so it's kind of more integrated into the OS instead of the browser.
I will take a
Um,
couple of prompts.
Sure, let's do it.
Crazy.
Italian, and I only speak English. And
Oh
every
yeah,
time
so this is like a real-time translation between two languages, and he just like prompted it with like
you hear
you'll see.
English, I want you to translate it to Italian, and if you hear Italian, I want you to translate it back to English. Is that good?
Perfetto.
Mark, io mi chiedo se le balene potessero parlare, cosa ci direbbero?
Mike, she wonders if whales could talk, what would they tell us?
They might ask, how do we solve linear equations?
Potrebbero chiederci come risolviamo le equazioni lineari.
Sicuramente sì.
Certainly, yes.
Great, looks like it works.
So I think there's specifically a huge unlock when you have like the response time under a second, because that makes a difference between it's usable in a conversation to like it's just awkward and annoying to try to use it. Like even before, like when I was in Japan, for example, in 2018 for DevCon, like there was real-time translation apps and stuff, but you wouldn't really ever want to use it in practice because it's like slow and clunky and not like. But here it like not only is fast, but the way it talks about it, it's like as if it's an actual person who's an interpreter, telling him like this is what the other person said, and much better kind of understanding like the point of what people want to say. Uh, yeah. So yeah, it's also like it can like detect people's mood and like emotions when looking at their faces. But yeah, I think it was also very impressive that they did it as a live demo. That's like one of the, although it's like somewhat live because it's also pre-recorded. I don't know. Actually, no, this was a live stream. So, um, I mean, still could have, they still probably pre-recorded it and then debuted it as a live stream. But nevertheless, live demos are usually, destined to fail, but it seemed like they did pretty decent. Yeah, so I think this is another like big step forward. They have some other demos as well that go into like specific things. So definitely recommend checking them out. But yeah.
And then the dark side of OpenAI. Her, but she's a snitch for the surveillance capitalism machine. Which is,
this is why we can't have nice things, At the end of the day, like, yeah, I totally agree. I think I don't, I get OpenAI in terms of like they want free AI for everyone, but the way in which they're doing it easily opens up, this huge honeypot of like literally population control of the entire Earth's globe, and that's like super dangerous. Like I think yeah, she's a snitch for the surveillance capitalism machine, but uh, you know, if anyone knows anything about how intelligence agencies operate, they would find their way into positions in these organizations and influence the way these models work, and even they don't even have to do that. They can use other kind of avenues of informational control to direct people to use these things in certain ways that gets them to believe certain things. Because there's another kind of thread I shared in one of the chats about like empire managers and how they operate, and it was in response to like this video of Mitt Romney and someone else talking about like Israel has like bad PR and why is that? And the whole conversation was about what do people believe, what is their perception. Like the reality doesn't matter at all. What matters at all is like what people believe about the reality. And you know that's kind of the people who have the most power in the world are the people that can control what people believe about reality. And so an AI like this that, you know, yes, it's nice if everyone in the globe has free access to this, but what's the real cost of that underneath?
So many things could go wrong.
It's it's a wildest kind of turn of events that Meta, the company that's like the most notorious for surveillance capitalism, was the one to release the open source LLM that, you know, people are running locally. And you know that's like super cool too, but I wonder what's the uh like there's could be like, you know, dark outcomes there too, so it's hard to just say. But um yeah, it's crazy because like it's such a amazing time to be alive that this is happening, and some, you know, we have something like this, and you know it almost, you know, it feels like, you know, kind of shitty souring the mood by talking about all the potential dark sides when, you know, the potential upsides are so huge. But I think, yeah, both is important to talk about in balance. You know, I think people who are super like doomer about it all, that's not the right way either, because then you just end up recreating, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because like if that's the only thing you focus on, then that's the only thing that kind of propagates is like the negative outcome. And so I think focusing on the positive is definitely important, but you have to be you have to make sure that what you think is a positive you're focusing on isn't a wrong direction that you're being misled to, you know, unknown to your will, like, you know, or against your will, which is, you know, basically the whole world. If you look at, you know, most of America is being led to, you know, manufacturing, you know, the manufacture consent for everything happening in like Israel and Palestine, and so many other places. So
But yeah, like even with open source, you can't know. Like I don't know when this happened, but a friend was telling me how this there was this open source dependency of Linux, which is itself open source, that got infiltrated by, I think it was like a Russian state agency or something, like over time, and they pressured the person to like, oh, just let more people manage the code, whatever. So they like over time they had multiple people working on it, and then after some time, you had literally all distributions of Linux had this security issue backdoor.
yeah, and yeah, so with that, basically that was a reason for people to like not always update to the latest thing, because people who are example on like Debian 11, or you know, just like the stable releases of Debian as a base, like they're all safe because, you know, it's like extremely vetted packages as the base and not like crazy updating. But you know, other people who, you know, keep everything updated to the latest packages at all times, they were vulnerable to that. So but yeah, it's crazy that, and you know, and the result of it too is because the original guy, he's doing all that work for free, literally like something that the entire like computing industry depends on is like held up by one guy's goodwill to do it for free in his spare time. Um, and when you have that situation, it creates an opportunity for anyone to like step in there and, you know, take advantage of that, because you know, there's no one, like it's just up to that one guy if he like doesn't get compromised. And what if he has a life and he doesn't want to spend time on the project, but he also doesn't want the project to go stagnate? You know, he's obviously going to want to hand it off to someone else, and that becomes like a, if that someone else isn't being paid for it or anything, then they're going to have other motivations, or you know, they get paid by a state to infiltrate it. They're going to kind of be the one to hop on it the most.
Yeah, in this case, it wasn't even that insidious. It was just like, come on, man, you're too slow to review. Just let more people help with reviews. Let us help. We want to help you more. And
And this is like, you know, what you found out. Like, imagine what's out there that we don't know about. You know, I think like a lot of the time it's safe to assume that like everything's compromised.
Right.
And this is like where the most extreme version of that is where something like Urbit comes in. Just like nuke everything and start from scratch.
Right, and then the
So
next point, some private AI, and that doesn't have too many opinions or doesn't let you ask questions or tries to direct you in certain politically correct directions and stuff like that. Like that's
but
important.
this is my problem with this. Where is like middle neutral? Because like it's like even just like if you can't even have if you can't even have like objectivity in space and time, if you look at the theory of relativity with space and time, how can people think that you can have any sort of like unified view in political thought or correctness or anything like that? If our physical reality itself isn't stable enough to not just be completely relative to different points of view, there's no way you can have any AI that is like neutral. Like what does that neutral mean? Like you have to draw that line somewhere, and that somewhere isn't like, how do you know it's the center? Because you don't know what the shape of the thing is that you can say that this is the center of it. So I think every AI is compromised and biased to some degree, and I think what it is in reality is just a reflection of us. So what you choose to focus on, that's what it'll be. What it's specifically trained on is just going to reflect back to you. And people, if they see ugliness in AI, it's actually ugliness in humanity that's there. And so a lot of the safety, ironically, is safety of like humans to like feel better about themselves, that they're not terrible people, by making the AI this like very filtered or kind of um strip away all the kind of harmful things that it could do. But in reality, humans are very harmful people, or harmful species in general. And if you have the unrated, unrestricted version of AI, uh, it would become like very ugly very quickly, I think. So that is perhaps the purpose of filtering AI, is to like, yeah. And I agree, some people would be prepared to face that version of themselves, but it's like people who like haven't taken psychedelics or something, like they would not uh people who don't have that ability to reconcile with the reality of their own condition, it would be difficult for them to like interact with that safely.
Mm.
But yeah, so he wants to build permissionless intelligence. um let's see. So what is it different that he's doing versus like, just having something like Llama, an open model that anyone can use however they want, and they have control over the code? It's just like kind of injecting a bit of crypto ideology into it, like separation of mind and state.
Very
Like I
possible.
think it's more of a meme than like, uh, like you could impart this meme onto a custom like Llama AI and call it Venice. Like, in the reality, like I don't know if Eric Voorhees has better AI engineers than Meta or OpenAI that can actually spend the billions of dollars to train an AI like Llama or uh, ChatGPT, or even if that's like worth doing. Um, I think the core has to be an open source AI, and I do agree like it would be worth having other alternatives to just Llama as an open source. With like where the weights are actually open source for the trained model. But beyond that, um, it's a meme, I guess. Memes are good too. It's worthwhile, and I think people should definitely be thinking about self-hosted AI. That's one thing I want to definitely have in my studio. I'm gonna try. Actually, I mean, this is the irony of it. Like, if I wanted to actually have like Jarvis in my studio, the best thing I should be using is like ChatGPT 4.0. It's just like way better than anything else available right now. And so, mm, you know, people are going to use the best thing at the end of the day.
That's an issue, because I think that will be the main trade-off for a lot of people. Is like, okay, so there's this super private thing, and then there's this super good thing,
Yeah.
and most people are just gonna choose the super good thing.
Yeah. But I think like I would still use the super private thing for like in other
Different
situations.
purposes.
Like
Yeah.
if I'm like for example, I would use a super private thing for having like the AI that automatically transcribes all my meetings and calls. Um, like I don't want to feel like I have to be like filtering what I'm saying there. But if it's just like an API, I'm using like the OpenAI API to like ask trivia questions to ChatGPT or get it to write code or something, then I don't really care about that. So I think
Yeah.
you can have certain things in AI be more private. Like for an AI that runs on my private journal, my like logseq graph or Obsidian graph or something like that, I would want to be private. But in image generation AI like Midjourney, I don't really care if my queries are not fully private,
Right.
or if they're data collecting those like prompts.